Now over to you. Welcome, Rosemary.
Thank you, Maya. Hello, everybody. It's really great to be with you over time. And today, I know, is the first Sunday of Advent, and I am leading us into the Christmas story, which I am convinced, especially after learning from Reverend James, that whole census thing didn't actually happen. It's like, whoa, how come we've got that story? Well, I think it is, in fact, a story from the mystical tradition. And we need to go into spiritual dimension to really understand it, to really get it. And we do. I mean, every Christmas, there's something magical about that Christmas story that in the Gospel of Luke that transports me into an amazing sense of peace and oneness. So today, I intend to talk about what humans can, what I have in one way and another, experience and learn about the spiritual, the life in spirit, while we're still embodied. The time-based language that we all speak, languages in which times are really important grammatical elements, call it some version of the afterlife. But what if there is no time, which appears to be true outside of the physical dimension of awareness? It's not after life, it's life at a different dimension of awareness. Most of us are curious about, what happens. What happens to people after? There's still the concept of after, when we're no longer with them in physical dimension. I don't know. I've had a lot of questions. What happens to saints? What happens to crooks? What happens to grandmas and grandpas and little children and all kinds of people after we leave our bodies? Are we still conscious? What are we conscious of? What do we experience? And what about those guides we become aware of? People that we knew in life who occasionally appear in some way to guide us, to warn us, to help us, and others, other teachers from beyond. For example, who are the souls in Abraham? Who knows? And that is one of the aspects that is true, as we've already seen, as we rise in dimensions of awareness. That uniqueness that we love so much when we're embodied gradually merges with God, with the one, with one energy. And that is a more and more blissful experience. What about angels? Who are they? What do they know? What's their role? Why do we become aware of them occasionally? Are there devils? Is there a hell? What's heaven, if it exists? Those have been some of my questions. I'm not going to be able to answer all of them today, obviously, but I will, as I have been doing, share with you a few experiences that I've had that have, informed my beliefs about what the different dimensions that I haven't really lived in, but will someday, what they involve. So over a lifetime, through a whole bunch of different ways, I have gotten a good number of answers to my insistent questioning. It's something that I have been interested in, passionate about since I was a little kid. And so I've had many, many, many years to experience different aspects, and it's been a quest of mine. And, you know, to some extent, it has involved following people who have had and tell us about near-death experiences, which are, you know, putting our toes out of body. And I've had a couple of those experiences myself, which haven't been like any others that I've heard about. So I assume they're all pretty individual. I've read a lot of the spiritual channeled, you know, the ones we know about, the soul groups, who typically, they really give us the same message, even though in different words, in different examples. And it's really interesting through them, especially through Esther Hicks, who has been around, has been channeling this soul group that they've conveniently named Abraham over many years. And if you go back and look at one of her recordings when she was just starting versus her eloquence now, it will give you an idea of the human skills and the work of developing them that, you know, she has really invested in to translate lights and pulses and, you know, various non-physical really kinds of messages into words, because the spirits don't necessarily speak fluent English. Guess what? So the people who are channeling for us have invested a lot of time and energy in using their gifts, sharing their gifts, and becoming more skilled. And this is also true generally for mediums, people who help us to understand messages from spirits that are not in the physical dimension, that are not embodied, some of which we've known, some of which have known us because they're ancestors, some of which don't know us at all, but they're guides for everybody. They're high spiritual entities. Some of them have never been embodied, and we call those angels. But they appear and they give messages. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So another fortuitous helper that I've had is I met in midlife, I met a woman who was my soulmate, and we lived together. We worked together. She was a physician and worked as a counselor with people, and I was a homeopathic physician. And we collaborated. So we were together 24/7. It was a very intense and wonderful relationship. And turned out she got metastatic cancer, and I took care of her for 2 years, and then she died. And we didn't expect her to die then. Yeah, she had cancer, but she wasn't expecting to die, and she was still very involved. And one night she died like that. And I was in shock. I mean, it just blew me apart. So that's another experience that turned out to be really helpful, although it was hard to get through. So I want to start with a concept that I haven't heard very many people talk about, but it is so important when we think about the teachers in the physical, when we think about the humans way before us who were spiritually aware, spiritual seekers, spiritual teachers. They wrote texts. We somehow we speak and teach as though our modern religion, whatever it is, kind of sprang up spontaneously out of nothing. And that isn't true. We know that spiritual texts go back at least 35,000 years. 35,000 years, 35 millennia. We know that texts have come down to us that have typically by clergy been sequestered and considered secret. Like, nobody who hasn't studied a lot could possibly know this stuff. And so it's there. The teachings are encoded in the modern religions, but they are very encoded. And we don't necessarily understand their deeper, higher, whatever direction you want to use, it doesn't matter, it's not physical, dimensions. So that's something that has been really important that I've become more and more aware of in my studying, is that there are texts, ancient spiritual texts, that modern religions, including the shamanistic religions, including the Abrahamic religions, including the Eastern religions, all those religions that we acknowledge in our ceremony, they all encode teachings from a much earlier age that were particularly exciting to people right around the time when Jesus was teaching. The teacher who allegedly wrote them, these texts, he was given the name, he or she or it or they were given the name Hermes, and with a last name, which I'm not going to remember correctly, so I'm not going to try. And they're called Hermetic texts, and they're from Egyptian and Greek sources. Hermes is a Greek name, and they're generally referred to as Hermetic teachings. The word that we know, hermetic, hermetically sealed, actually in a convoluted way, comes down from the same teachings, but it also was a source text for Judaism, for Christianity, for Islam, for Hinduism, for Buddhism, for Confucianism, and for quite a few of the shamanic, earth-focused traditions. So these texts talk about the mystery, talk about God and humans and the higher dimensions of awareness. I think that in Unity, actually, I learned one time when I was at Unity Village, I met with a couple of Unity scholars who just kind of let it drop that, oh yeah, Charles Fillmore was a devoted member of the Kabbalah study group in Kansas City, all the rabbis who are studying Judaic mysticism. And it's pretty sure that both the 12 powers and a lot of the unity metaphysics came to us through his study of Kabbalah. And I've done some reading of Kabbalah, and oh yeah, I mean, it's like a unity text with the addition of sacred geometry and numerology, which are basic elements of the Kabbalah. And so if you want to learn more, studying unity metaphysics really corresponds well with the mystical teachings that you encounter in, and the basic messages of Kabbalah, but also all those other religions. A good text, a secular text that introduces the whole interfaith picture is called the Perennial Philosophy, and it was published in 1945 by Aldous Huxley, the British author who studied Kabbalah and Islam and, you know, the other texts, and put it all together into a description, a mystical description, which is not religious. And books like What Are You in Unity by Ida Shanklin, and Lessons in Truth by Emily Cady, and The 12 Powers and Christian Healing and Teach Us to Pray by Charles Fillmore are all texts that include the Hermetic knowledge. My experience is that what I've read in texts, and also from, you know, early Christian mystics like Saint Teresa of Avila, and Thomas Aquinas, all really focus on basically the same messages, the same knowledge. And I have also had my own mystical experiences, which, you know, correspond with what I've learned in the texts. I was always a poet from the time I learned to read and write, but I was married for a long time to a guy who was an alcoholic, was an active alcoholic. And I stayed with him for a long time because I was Catholic. And the Catholic teaching is, you know, whoever you married, you got to stick with and suffer. And the marriage became so abusive that I finally woke up and said to myself, you know, this is not living. And I decided, it took me 7 or 8 years to actually do something about it, but I decided, okay, I need to get out of this marriage in order to become who I truly am. And I was married to someone who was resolutely anti-spiritual, although his second wife is a witch who practices Wicca, and he has no clue. I think it's beautiful. But I shared that decision. I finally came to that decision and shared it with friends. I was living in Missouri. The friends are out in the country. And that was a really important moment in my life when I actually decided that, okay, I was leaving. I was going to resign my position as a professor. I was leaving the house that we shared, and I was just going to take off and go as far as I could go, which was California. And on the way home from telling that to my friends, driving along this isolated country road in the hills of southern Missouri. And all of a sudden, I was lifted out of my body. I have no idea what I did with the car. I think I just stopped in the middle of the road. And I was immersed in this rainbow of light. There was so many brilliant, wonderful, harmonized colors. And there was a harmony of an infinite number of sounds. And all of it was harmony. All of it was such incredible peace and beauty and wow. And I thought, wow, I guess that's probably what it's like in heaven. That's it. And the thing that was amazing about it was my heart was so filled with peace and love and joy. And there was no indication of any individuality, any personification. There were no physical elements at all. And it was awesome. And then my human brain went to work. And I remember thinking, God, that must be boring. No stories, no adventures, no challenges. Oh, clearly I was not ready to remain at that point in that level of awareness. But it has stayed in my memory and in my heart. And for years, I kept thinking, where is that place? I want to go back there. I want to experience that again. And I didn't travel to look for it, but I was looking for it. And then after I started to meditate regularly, I realized, oh, it's inside me. When I meditate, I go there anytime I want. Duh. It was quite an awareness coming on. So that, I figure, having studied what the dimensions are in Kabbalah, that was pretty high. It was around eighth or ninth dimension, where our individuality begins to not exist. And if you think about it, every step from one dimension to another involves saying yes to leaving behind at least one aspect of our treasured uniqueness and specialness. That is the spiritual path. And it's been written about endlessly in spiritual texts, right? You got to die to yourself, is the way the Catholic writers put it. And that's what they are talking about. We have to say yes to being active and being part of the one and not one apart in order to advance spiritually. So the next major new experience of higher awareness that I came into was when my soulmate died. It was after I had taken care of her single-handedly. I would never do that again with anybody. But what did I know? For 2 years, as she went through the metastatic cancer. And like I said, we were not expecting her to die. The autopsy did not show that she died from cancer. She died, her heart just stopped. Go figure. But it was a shock. And so, I was floating in some misery for a couple of weeks. Then I began to realize, both with physical things that happened, like I would be with a friend looking for something that was in her study, and we couldn't find it. And it was stupid stuff like glue, and a friend and I spent almost an hour looking for that over the house. And I finally said, okay, it must be in Ellen's study. And I couldn't find it there either. But right outside the door to the study, when we were coming back, there was a tube of glue. It hadn't been there, I swear. And that kind of thing kept happening. Not only that, but Ellen was sending messages to me and a couple of other friends. She was very smart. She never sent messages just to me. There was always somebody else involved who was freaked out and, kept telling me, stop messing with my email. And I said, it's not me. I am receiving those messages too. And a couple of other kind of freaky things. But I realized that, hey, she and I were still connected. We were still dialoguing within. And one of the early dialogues told me to hasten myself to a good medium so that, we could actually communicate in words. And I have worked since then. This was 14 years ago with 2 or 3 really good mediums and who have coached me in several amazing experiences. There was one where, I don't know why we wanted to do this, but we did early on. We wanted to be in the same place again. And the medium facilitated that. But we had to prepare it. Ellen had to slow her vibrations way down. And I had to ramp mine way up because the vibrational level that we can attain when we're physically embodied is much slower and denser than the one that we will have when we leave our bodies. So, and we were coached by the medium. And that was where I learned about vibrations. Oh my gosh. It was wonderful. I mean, the connection was fabulous. But I felt like I was going to disintegrate from the rate of vibrations. And it was only because the medium was there saying, okay, hang on, and holding my hand and helping me to stay in that elevated rate of vibration that we were able to experience it at all. It's not something I want to do again while I'm embodied. But it was a good learning experience. I really experienced vibrations and what they do. I have 4 or 5 times a year, as I have pursued my ministry, I have worked with at one or another of mediums to receive messages about what I'm doing and where I might be going wrong, because they have a way more full dimension perspective on what we're doing. And I guess one of the most amazing teachings that I have experienced is I've been told over and over again, okay, my job in creating and making happen, manifesting a ministry is to create the idea, to receive the idea, and to hold the idea, and to not get all wrapped up in the details of how it's going to happen. I need to leave that entirely to the universe, and the right people and the right help and the right resources will come when the idea is ready for them. And that has been true, amazingly. It is really mind-boggling experience. But it means that I have to stay aware of the idea in prayer, of the ministry, of its goal, of its aim. I need to really activate what Unity calls the law of mind action. And that is my job as a creative minister. That's it. But that's a real challenge to somebody who's been an overachiever all her life. You know, that, okay, no, don't do, envision and allow and say yes. So those are a few ideas, a few experiences, a few perceptions of what we can learn and experience and grow into while we're embodied of life in the spiritual dimension. Yes, people continue to be aware, initially aware as themselves, like my partner, Ellen, was a really dedicated, loving physician in life, in physical life. And often during the first couple of years after she left the body, she came back to Earth in places where there were disasters to help the physicians know how to save people. She was in Haiti after 2 different natural disasters there, working with the physicians. That was really interesting to me to realize, oh, she can do that without a body. She goes and she works with the minds of the people with whom she shared skills and gave them ideas. Wow. Over time, as her light has grown brighter and brighter, she has retreated from involvement in earthly happenings and has joined a soul group. So she has moved, she has grown, she has evolved after leaving her body. And that's also, to me, a really interesting and useful awareness to realize, okay, life goes on and the spiritual path continues. And for some people, I'm sure it involves coming back and finishing stuff that we haven't finished before. That hasn't seemed to be the case for her, but also I know that people can be in several bodies at once. So, you know, our whole time-based awareness goes away. Anyway, what more than anything, what I've learned, what I've been learning, what I continue learning, is that every one of us, every aware being, not only human being, but being, has an important role to play in energizing a consistently more and more loving consciousness for ourselves, for others, and for all creation. And source energy is still creating the perfect universe, the perfect idea in which every conscious entity evolves into increasingly higher love and goodness until all beings in every dimension of awareness are freely choosing to express beauty, light, love, wholeness, intelligence, and every other divine power. That is the purpose of our free will, because in yielding, in surrendering, in saying yes to giving up aspects of our individuality and to becoming one in all ways. We are helping to create the perfect universe. Let's go into meditation for a couple of minutes. And I'd like to suggest that we resonate with, that we consider in meditation, this quotation from the writing of Albert Einstein, who was an amazingly aware, spiritually aware human while he was embodied. He said, quote, "We humans experience ourselves, our thoughts and our feelings as something separated from all else. It's an optical delusion of human consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison of singularity by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty." So as we relax into our seats and slow and become aware of our breathing, let us, as we breathe deeply, let us focus on the final thought in this quote. Our task as humans, once again, our task must be to free ourselves from the prison of singularity by widening our circle of compassion, to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. Let us spend this time of reflection and inner awareness, envisioning ourselves as part of a center of a circle of compassion containing all conscious beings, from rocks and trees, plants, mushrooms, flowers, birds, reptiles, vertebrates, marine mammals, fish of all kinds and colors, seaweed and plankton, coral, the earth, the sky, the moon, the stars, the sun, the cosmos, millions of unique and wonderful humans, and all of creation. Let us feel one with all. Let us feel compassionate kindness and understanding for all. Let us feel universally loved and loving. Let us bask in the beauty of all sounds, colors, and divinely shared experiencing. Now I invite you to call to mind those people, places, situations, communities that appear to need greater light and love, wholeness and peace. Say their names softly aloud to introduce them to our light and our love. Envision the light we are sharing, expanding to include everybody that we have thought about and named. Feel the beauty of our whole company united in one mind and one heart. And now I invite you, as it feels comfortable, to bring your awareness back into your body and your room. From head to toe, become aware of muscles and move them. Finally, when it's right, gently open your eyes. Look around and smile at the beautiful fellowship we have just shared in meditating together. Plan to take with you after this shared time our joy from resonating together in spiritual awareness. And so it is. Amen.
Thank you, Rosemary, bringing us back here after we have traveled with you in your experiences. I thank you for sharing so freely. And I know we have one more Sunday with you, correct?
Yes.
Very good. Very good. So we bless our love offering as we do at this point. We do it in a new way. We do it by stepping into our own gratitude for what is in our lives. We begin there. Take a moment, count 3 things that you're grateful for in your life right now. And from that place of expanded gratitude, we bless the gifts that we intend to give to Unity Center of Montreal with our old sweet affirmation, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I give and all that I receive. And this we know in the name of the living Christ. It is so. Amen. So the announcements for this week is, of course, our Advent series with Marvin Anderson. Gloria is making available her recordings of this 5-part series with Marvin. So we're going to do that at our regular time on Wednesday at 5 o'clock. Okay? Please mark your calendar. I will make an effort to be with you for our noon meditation. I know there were several days I was not able to be with you. And so Wednesday at 5. How many of you, I hope, are making an effort? Please, 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 please. Come on, come on, come on. And God willing, I'm flying to Canada on Thursday. So I just hope that, yeah, I know. I'm going, even though, you know, we have a new variant that is popping up, but anyway. So I hope to see as many of you, even in between during the week, maybe talk to me on the phone, come and see me. I'm going to mostly look at what we can do with the building, take care of the building, make some innovations regarding how we're going to use it, renting it out, leasing it out, whatever, so that that building is alive during the week, not just on Sunday. So let me think if we have again, Rosemary next Sunday, we got Marvin Anderson on Wednesday. Okay, all right. So let's reach across, holding hands. We have Anne-Marie with us from Switzerland, who will be sharing La Pensée du Jour. We have a French prayer service, short and sweet, after our goodbye, after our prayer for protection. So reach across and allow the spontaneity of holding hands, touching, holding hands. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. And all is well. And I come to Namaste, looking at each one of you. Come on, smiles across the screen. And I know Anne-Marie is with us. And again, Rosemary might then close. You also have that gratitude prayer in French. Very good, very good, very good. Any of you who have a French prayer, you're always welcome to participate, but we really want to anchor it in us that we do have 5-10 minutes of a French prayer service. All right. Namaste to all of you. Have a wonderful Advent Sunday, and a special love goes out to those who are with us on a landline, who are with us. We send you love and appreciation for your being with us today. I know Wilma has somebody on, and maybe where Susan is probably have somebody on. All right, okay. Well, I'm turning it over to you, Anne-Marie from Switzerland. Hello. We need your sound, Anne-Marie.
Okay, fine. C'est un très grand honneur de pouvoir vous lire la pensée du jour de ce soir, mais chez vous, c'est encore à midi. Et